It's fascinating to me no matter how many times James Gunn and Matt Reeves themselves have debunked the idea of Robert Pattinson's Batman merging with the DCU, or clearly point out that Matt Reeves intends to do his own thing with his universe without any interference, people still think a merger is gonna happen. I don't know whether it's just copium or fans wanting to will something into existence, because the chances of Robert Pattinson becoming the Batman of James Gunn's universe are slim to none. No amount of TikTok edits are gonna convince me that David Corenswet's Superman will cross over with this particular version of Batman. It also doesn't help when you have a bunch of fraudulent scoopers reporting BS rumors indicating that James Gunn is trying to convince Matt Reeves into letting his Batman cross over. So my sources tell me that Robert Pattinson will be the Batman of the DCU. The DCU's Batman could be cast next week and people would still be convinced that Pattinson is the Batman of that universe instead of a new actor. Besides, the Batman Part 2 is coming out in less than 2 years, so we don't even have to wait that long for Matt Reeves to give us some good content again.
What? We're flying to Philadelphia! Oh, hell no! That's the hell no!
James Gunn making it evidently clear that the DCU's Batman and Matt Reeves universe are completely separate dates back all the way to the first few months of him taking over as co-CEO of DC Studios. Around a month before revealing the partial slate of the DCU's first chapter, Gods and Monsters, a Variety article was published stating that James Gunn and Peter Safran were exploring the possibility of incorporating Robert Pattinson's Batman into their wider DC universe. Gunn was quick to deny this, mentioning how what was published in said article was entirely untrue. He also confirmed that Batman in The Brave and the Bold would be played by a new actor who has never played Batman in live action previously, continuously going on record pointing out that they were ways away from casting Batman in the DCU. The beginning of the announcement video itself blatantly has James Gunn clarifying that Matt Reeves' universe is considered Elseworlds, outside of the DCU.
And if something is outside of that, like Matt Reeves' Batman or Todd Phillips' Joker or Teen Titans Go, that it is clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds, outside of the mainstream DCU continuity.
If that somehow isn't proof enough, a big reason as to why the Batman universe starring Robert Pattinson is being kept separate is because it was Matt Reeves' decision and James Gunn respects that. As recently as last month, before the Batman Part 2 got delayed to October 2027, James Gunn was asked if he was worried about the Clayface movie being so close to the Batman Part 2's release date, to which he responded that he wasn't worried because the Clayface movie is set in the DCU, so it doesn't matter.
You've been very adamant Matt Reeves' Batman universe is Matt Reeves' Batman,
Yeah.
and he's such a singular filmmaker. Let him do his thing. Have you contemplated, have you had the conversation, have you reconsidered integrating Pattinson's Batman into your DCU?
I've contemplated it. Yeah, we've contemplated it. Gotta contemplate everything, John. Like, we gotta talk about everything. Like, it just mean
Right.
like, and then see, like, you can't. These questions you can't answer because people are too,
Right. Yeah, you would be an idiot not to have
they
that.
make
I get
everything
it.
to mean. An idiot not to think what's this gonna. How does this go? How does this go? But I'm
Right.
committed to both telling stories in the DCU and telling Elseworlds story. I want the freedom to tell Elseworlds stories. We want to be able to, tell
Yeah.
a story in which Superman's very different, or tell a Red Sun story or whatever. It's like we want to be able to play with these characters in different ways, and they're different. One of the things I love about DC over Marvel comic books is that those things are much more plentiful. There's many more Elseworld stories. There's many more presentations of Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman, especially, that you see them showing up in different ways in different Elseworld stories.
The almost zero chance of Matt Reeves allowing his universe to mesh with Gunn's universe has nothing to do with conflicting tones or the Batman's darker aesthetic not fitting well with the wider DCU, as that's what kind of works with Batman and Superman's dynamic in the comics. Sure, Matt Reeves could decide to incorporate more fantastical elements and or villains into future projects, but the thing people seem to not understand is that Matt Reeves has no intention of doing that. He's been saying for years how grounded he wants his his Batman to be, and has explained how characters like the Gentleman Ghost would never appear in his movies. He might push to the edge of fantastical, but would never go into full fantastical, and his universe is meant to be quite grounded. Again, those are his words. Just a few years ago, Matt Reeves went in depth about his plans for his universe shortly before the release of The Batman, proclaiming how he feels drawn to finding the grounded version of everything. While he loves the fantastical side of Batman from the comics, his iteration doesn't lead hard into that and would be a challenge in an interesting way to find a way to incorporate a character like Mr. Freeze. It's very clear that if Matt Reeves were to incorporate a villain like Clayface in the Batman Part 2 or beyond, it wouldn't be the traditional version who's a metahuman. Spoilers for Creature Commandos episodes 5 and 6, so if you haven't seen those episodes or haven't watched the show, I'd recommend skipping to the timestamp on screen. Again, if you haven't seen Creature Commandos,
Get the fuck out!
compare that to the DCU's Clayface, who is very fantastical and a shapeshifter as seen in Creature Commandos Season 1 Episode 5.
That's a shapeshifter. Calls himself Clayface. He's dangerous.
I mean, for crying out loud, Matt Reeves is the same guy who turned a more outlandish, campy villain like the Riddler into a Zodiac killer type antagonist. Let's take into account what we know about Batman's villains in the DCU so far. Creature Commandos sheds light on Clayface briefly in one episode, and there's Dr. Phosphorus, who is a member of the Creature Commandos team. Dr. Phosphorus made his first appearance in Detective Comics issue 469, where he was a nuclear scientist named Alexander Sartorius, who worked under Rupert Thorne to build a nuclear power plant in Gotham. The people of Gotham were against building a nuclear power plant in the city, so it was forced to be constructed a few miles offshore in the Atlantic. Sartorius wanted to check up on the building's construction one night, but the power plant's reactor cracked open, which drove radioactive sand to be placed all over his body. This in turn transformed him into Dr. Phosphorus. Blaming the citizens of Gotham for his situation, he sought revenge by deciding to poison the city's water supply. Creature Commandos is a pretty similar backstory for Phosphorus, only differences being his origin is a lot more tragic in true James Gunn fashion. Like in the comics, Sartorius was a nuclear scientist, but in this universe he sought out to find the cure for cancer by using nuclear fusion treatment. However, he needed funding from Rupert Thorne. Thorne wanted to share Sartorius' research with scientists from the fictional DC nation of Bialia. Sartorius' wife warned him about giving away nuclear secrets to an oppressive regime like Bialia, so he faked the results he gave to Rupert Thorne. Thorne found out, killed Sartorius' wife and child, and threw him into a reactor with the intent to kill him. Instead, it ended up turning him into Dr. Phosphorus, and he goes on a killing spree, killing anyone who wronged him and his family that night, including Rupert Thorne and his family. Dr. Phosphorus takes over Rupert Thorne's entire criminal organization and empire, taking over his drug business, territories, anything that was once his. Phosphorus was living the life as a new crime lord in Gotham. Then you'll never guess who put a stop to his antics.
What? Huh?
But it could still be Robert Pattinson's because you only see his silhouette and not the full outlook of his character design.
Just shut the fuck up!
Keep in mind, there is no script yet for The Brave and the Bold, so it only makes sense to leave Batman's design ambiguous for the time being. Projects in the DCU are not greenlit or begin the casting process until the scripts are completed.
When they first gave it to me, we saw a lot more Batman. And I was saying, I am not ready to commit to that. I'm not ready to commit to that. So I just like, more silhouette, more silhouette. It's a great way to show that Batman does exist. He already exists in this universe. Just like when we come to the Superman movie, we see the Superman already exists. He's already known by the people in Metropolis. He's an important part of this universe, and he has an impact on it, including defeating such pretty dangerous, scary people like Phosphorus, who's pretty tough.
Given Matt Reeves' own statements on how he wants his Batman to be, I just don't see Pattinson's Batman being capable of dealing with threats like Phosphorus or Clayface.
Shish kebab! Gotcha!
There are so many convoluted explanations I've heard in how they could make Matt Reeves' movies work in the DCU canon, which ironically would be more complicated than simply casting a new actor. Even if Gunn wanted to change his mind on the Robin of choice in The Brave and the Bold, there is going to be a guaranteed Robin with years of experience at his belt, since there is a Teen Titans movie in development being written by the writer of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Well, they could just time jump to an older version of Pattinson Batman.
No!
Give it up!
No! No! No!
Do you know how significant of a time jump that would be? The Batman depicts Bruce Wayne only in his second year of crime fighting, and the Batman Part 2 picks up shortly after the events of the first movie. Given that short of a time frame, I highly doubt the sequel would feature a Robin throughout its entirety. Meanwhile, the DCU is set to feature an extended Bat family, as this Batman is an experienced crime fighter who's been doing this for at the bare minimum a decade. The biggest defense I've seen in having only one actor play Batman is how having two different theatrical Batmen simultaneously would confuse the general audience. I don't know if y'all know this, but some of the general audience have always been confused.
A lot of people don't know the difference.
Yeah.
Somebody just said congrats on Blue Beetle to me. People don't know.
Certain audiences can be pretty stupid when it comes to different versions of comic book characters on screen, yet when has that ever prevented them from seeing these movies? As long as The Brave and the Bold is marketed well, and if the movie looks good to them, why would it matter if they somehow can't distinguish the DCU's Batman from Robert Pattinson's? You had people confused about Joaquin Phoenix's Joker movie not being in the DCEU, yet that movie made over $1 billion. People seemed just fine with having 3 different Spider-Man actors in one movie. A movie's failure in this genre never stems from confusion of universes. Movies like The Flash bombed because people just didn't care and the movie didn't seem all that appealing. If the DCU goes out of their way to have a Batman who stands out stylistically, it shouldn't be that big of an issue. I've heard people suggest the idea of Pattinson playing both the DCU Batman and the one seen in Matt Reeves' universe simultaneously, which would be the most mind-boggling creative decision Gunn could ever allow. Imagine a normie watches the Batman and the Penguin series, getting ready to watch the Batman Part 2, then all of a sudden Robert Pattinson's Batman is 10 to 15 years older, has an entire family of sidekicks and fantastical villains, all in the span of at most a few years in real time. Then you watch the Batman Part 3 or something and he's back to playing a younger Batman. But it isn't a prequel to the DCU version with the Bat family. Like, that's just weird. Well, Matt Reeves could change his mind in the future. Why would he do that? Why would he give up having full creative control of his Batman just so that he could be tied to a larger interconnected universe he himself has no control over? That's the whole reason why it's being kept separate in the first place. He made it his personal mission to do his own thing once he took over what was supposed to be Ben Affleck's solo movie set in the DCEU. Initially, Ben Affleck was going to star in, write, and direct a Batman movie. Then he stepped down to just starring in the movie, with Matt Reeves now serving as the director. Once Ben Affleck left the role entirely, Reeves took the opportunity to do his own thing. Having 2 separate Batmen would benefit both parties at the end of the day. Matt Reeves gets full creative control in telling his story in the Batman epic crime saga, while James Gunn doesn't have to worry about a pre-established canon with his Batman he'd be forced to work with. If he wants to incorporate Damian Wayne or any other Bat-filmy characters in a specific way, he can do that without any problem. Having 2 Batmen can be justified by having a version who is a team player with a Bat family and a key pillar in teaming up with other heroes like Superman or whoever else in the Justice League. The DCU is clearly striving to do something different with Batman that hasn't been attempted in the big screen for a long time. It makes no sense to have a Batman shy away from fighting super-powered individuals in a universe where metahumans have existed for a long time. If Matt Reeves wants to shy away from the fantastical elements, it is what it is, and we just have to let James Gunn do his thing with his own version of Batman, who will not be played by Robert Pattinson.